Welcome to the I Learn, Therefore I Can podcast, an iRise performance consulting production where we explore the dynamic world of performance through a learning and development lens with a focus on achieving excellence. I'm your host, Lonnie Gregory, and I'm inspired by those of you that wish to be better at what you've been asked to do. Welcome back to the conversation. Let's pick up where we left off. You like the poster boy for what this show is all about.
It's gonna be a Lonnie Gregory show, and it's just gonna be in my face like, like, is that Lonnie? No. He's just there for marketing.
That's Daniel. That's Daniel, y'all. Fascinating. But I do want to rewind. I wrote something down while you were talking.
Mm-hmm.
You said something about being selfish.
Yeah.
Say more about that.
Yeah. And I take this from Michael Jordan. He was on an old interview, and he was referring to a young lady who had pointed out the word selfish. And I say this as hard as it sounds. Forget them kids. Forget your spouse. Rely upon them for support and love and making sure that you are taking care of your household. But when it comes to your dreams, forget everybody else. You have no idea how much impact you're going to have, not only on the lives of your internal space, but externally, generationally. I'm already doing that because unfortunately, I'm at the age where people I went to college with got kids, and I think there's maybe one or two that have kids as well. But when they look up, and they see, the connections that they hit or that their parents have, and they see me, I want people to realize that it's like, hey, Dan went out for his goal. Dan went out for his vision, Mike Kobe Bryant, and I love him, and of course we all miss him.
Rest in peace.
He was in the gym daily, constantly. He's not thinking about nobody. He literally was like, forget them kids, forget my spouse. There would have been plenty of times, for him to focus on, his family and raising right, maybe providing values and lessons. But he knew by becoming a champion on the court that was going to take care of everything else. So folks need to figure out, what their superpower is, what they need to be selfish about. And the selfishness comes from what's burning in your heart. What's your passion, what's your desire. Don't be selfish because you want to play video games all day and you ain't never picked up a controller. And it's like, well, Dad told me to be selfish, so I'm going to be selfish about this. You need to be selfish about the things that are providing in your life and providing for others. Me becoming an attorney, more specifically an African-American attorney, that's not only pouring into myself, that's not only pouring into my family. My wife from 5 years from now is going to say, oh, my husband is an attorney. We'll get in touch with you. My son 5 years from now is going to say, oh, my dad's a lawyer. I need to talk to him first. That has such a huge impact, on their lives, and then extending apart from that, my extended family and friends are able to say the same thing. So if there's something that you're focusing on in your life, whether it be a realtor, whether it be an author, if that impact of what you're doing is not only being done internally as well as externally, that's what you got to be selfish about. But don't be selfish to the point where I was 21, 22 and Googling salaries, because we live in a time now that us, by just doing a podcast and folks getting views and subscribing to channels, you're getting paid off of that. So yes, your base salary, if you will, might be X, but what you're doing for endorsements and how you're pouring into others, you are getting paid over and over and over and over again. I've made connections because people saw the podcast. I've made connections because of the people I connected with in the real estate game. I've made connections with fellow attorneys because of the same book that we were both on and getting advice from him as far as what I need to do to prepare myself for law school. So pour first into yourself by being selfish, but make sure when you are pouring into yourself that it's leading out to others as well. So a lot, you're not being selfish. You're just being somewhat semi-selfish, if you will. That's a lot of somewhat semi-selfish.
Somewhat semi-selfish, right? Say that 6 times fast.
Right?
That's powerful, though, man. Because for me, that translates into what am I learning or what do I need to learn to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish. But Daniel, I also know that none of us do anything alone, right?
No.
I learned this song back in the fourth grade, PS 70 in the Bronx, New York. No man is an island, no man stands alone, right?
I know the rhythm.
You know
Yeah.
that song? Each man
Yeah.
is my brother, blah, blah, blah. By the way, don't critique me, y'all. I hear y'all out there.
They're like, Lonnie just need to stick with the podcast. No.
But I know we don't accomplish much by ourselves.
No.
Talk a little bit about the people that have supported you, that coached you, that mentored you, that trained you, maybe some of the classes that you've attended. How has learning and development contributed to where you are today? Say a little bit about those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Support, is a big factor, as far as my journey. It starts with talking to a stranger. You're not going to get it from family. You're very rarely going to get it from your friends. So start talking to strangers as far as what you're looking to do. Because a lot of people say like, oh no, I'm listening to other people say that I need to focus on my grind. I need to be quiet for 6 months. No, you need to be yelling for 6 months that, hey, I want to be a millionaire real estate investor. What do I need to do to get started? Or, hey, I want to be an author. Because you being in your corner, because obviously you being stuck in your small little circle of you, yourself, and yourself only got you, yourself, and yourself. But when you start talking to others again, that's support. So definitely shout out to mom. She's raised me as being a single parent and being an only child. So that support has led me, through the years and even now. My wife actually got me reignited back into law school because I was struggling with reading comprehension. You give me a paragraph to read and say what was the context. What did the author mean by this? Do you disagree with the statement? Here's your 5 choices. I don't know. I'm crying. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm crying going through this stuff. And I'm calling up at the time my girlfriend crying, now my wife, and she's like, if it's got to take you 10 times to read something for you to understand it, do that. And I took that advice, and ran with it. And then, of course, my son he looks at me and mimics me and copies me. So he might not say outright, Dad, I love and support you. His actions show that he love and support. But I will say the biggest outside of real estate, especially when you're brand new and you just talk to other people that you're trying to be like, they'll be there for you. But the biggest one that I didn't expect, because they're always saying law school is competitive, is law school. I've heard from Black, white, Puerto Rican, Haitian, and Asian from the moment I said, hey, I'm looking at Delaware Law School. Hey, I got accepted to Delaware Law School. Hey, Dan, here's this book. Hey, Dan, join this group me chat. We could give you further advice. Hey, Dan, there's a couple of events going on. Hey, Dan, here's some scholarships to look at. What? Now, mind you, for the majority, it was definitely us as far as reaching out. But everybody else that I was connected with on LinkedIn, building that relationship with, former alumni, and even the school themselves, the director of admissions says, here's a few folks that you could reach out to directly. And at first I'm like, they might not give me advice. I'm already going and thinking in negative, Lonnie. I ain't even, have the junction or thinking that I'm like, oh boy, this is great. I'm already like, man, they probably too busy or don't want to talk to me. I've had people spend minutes, close to an hour, giving me the advice that I need. But it was because I spoke up, and it was because I talked to strangers. So my learning and development comes from others. My support, for where I'm at right now and where I'm headed comes from others. Where others are looking for love and support, in essence, should come from others. If you're not getting it from your family and friends. If.
Wow. Good. So your experiences have been promoted by the support that you've gotten from others. You've certainly incorporated that into your life. What would you say is the greatest lesson that you've learned in this journey to get into law school, to be a host of a podcast, to do work in the community? and to help others? What is that great lesson that you learned that you apply to yourself?
Me and my wife shared, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't spend no more than 5 minutes on it.
Oh, stop.
And then,
Stop. Oh, wait. No, stop.
like, wait a second. This is my show. You're not supposed to be dropping gems like that.
You're supposed to, but the way I operate, I need to I need to
jot
make sure
just that for myself. Like, wait a second.
I need to make sure I got all of that.
Right.
Right? I need all of that. So I just need you to say that. How we say one more time again.
Yeah, listen, and it has helped. Fellas, if you listening, and ladies too, with your spouse, your loved one, be sure to remind them, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't spend no more than 5 minutes on it. I'm not the cleanest person, but I do clean. Now, if there may be a dish or two in the sink. Now, I told you I'm going to be this rich attorney with a lot of maids and a lot of servants. So I know in 5 years, Marsha, Jeffrey, all the butlers are going to take care of this. Shoot, I might not even need to be in the kitchen. So am I going to contemplate and get upset when the missus tells me, hey, when are you going to put the dishes away? Or when are you going to take care of this? No, I'm going to just keep my mouth shut, do what I got to need to do, and move forward. Because I know I'm going to be living, the lavish lifestyle. But even more poorly when it comes to work, when it comes to, stresses that come about, especially arguments, if it ain't going to matter in 5 years, give it 5 minutes.
Come on.
5 minutes of I saw it on a real estate show, a 5-minute funeral. Whatever comes about, you lost a deal, 5 minutes. Dang, lost that deal. Probably could have did something different. Probably could have talked to him different. Oh, we get into the 4-minute marker. How do I feel about this? Okay, we in the last minute. All right, up next, because the world doesn't care. Who's still alive? That's important. George Bush doesn't care. Tyler Perry doesn't care. There's a person out in Madison, Wisconsin, who just graduated college, and they're trying to figure out their internship and what they want to do in life that may be impactful to the local community and county in their area. And they're, out doing nonprofit. I'm making this stuff up as I go, ladies and gentlemen, so I hope you're paying attention, but they don't care. So stop spending the time on it to care about something that's not going to matter in 5 years.
See, I can be done right now. I am, I feel satisfied. If it ain't going to matter in 5 years, don't spend no more than 5 minutes on it. Come on. All right. So those of you who haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you just got a reason to subscribe, because Daniel is dropping the golden eggs. And there'll be more of that. Daniel, that was powerful. I appreciate that a lot. I needed that for myself.
Yeah.
I needed that.
Hence, listen, I always ask on the show to my guests, how do you overcome your roadblocks and obstacles in life? It's not for the audience. I'm being selfish. It's for me. Right. I take Lonnie, I asked you this question. It's like I asked you on the podcast. I'm like, I ask it for me because folks don't know. There might be an argument I just got out of. There might be something at work, but I got to put on all smiles on this podcast light, and I'm doing my 3, 2, 1 countdown, even though it's pre-recorded. But I asked that question to keep me uplifted. I asked the entrepreneur question. Hey, what do you tell the entrepreneurs out there who might be struggling or need to find that good fight? I get the stuff that says, remember your why, focus on your family, remember your impact that you're doing. And it reminds myself. So back to the point, hey, it ain't going to matter in 2029 while we spending more than 5 minutes on
it. We put a date on it now.
Right.
If it's not going to matter, what's today? June 7th, 2029?
Yeah. The crazy part is when people look at this video in 2029, June 7th, they're going to be like, dang, and where they at right now? I'm just manifesting. I'm going to throw people off because they're going to be like, it is June 7th, 2029. I am listening to this video. I am being impacted. So
That's what's up. That's why we do what we do.
yeah.
I am curious about something incredibly particular.
Yeah.
So, the theme of the show, the name of the show is I Learned, Therefore I Can. And there is something that you learned, meaning you've had the experience, you've incorporated that experience such that you're able to go do something else. Isolate for me one thing that you learned, therefore you can go do that other thing that you wanted, that you aspired to. What's that one
Yeah.
thing that you learned?
Yeah. I'm gonna start off by saying I'm the worst resume writing service business out there in the world because I learned how to do resumes back in 2007 and formatted perfectly, correctly. Microsoft Word and I are best friends. Now, what I can do is tell people what they need to do to become better in their careers or how to get a job via their resume by just showing them. So I say I'm the worst resume writer because these resume writers, businesses will charge hundreds of dollars. I charge hundreds of dollars. But the thing with me is that I feel that I'm just going to give you the tools. Like, hey, you're going to need a hammer. You're going to need a nail. You're going to need some plywood. This is how you build your house off a resume. So I show them all that. And it's basic stuff, y'all. I'm going to tell y'all the secret right now. Sample your career resume. Make sure you got the name of your career in parentheses. You go to Google Images. There you go. So I tell all the people that say, hey, Dan, can you help me with my resume? Yeah, have you done this first? No. And then they go do it. And they come back and say, thanks so much for your help. Hey, Dan, how do I go about applying? I'm from the old school. You got to call people up and ask them. People, It's crazy. Humans nowadays still love to hear from humans. Because right now, AI and robot technology, and I probably sound like a 90-year-old by saying robot technology, but y'all can sue me later when I become a lawyer. But, with the AI, you're talking to somebody who's automated, press 1 for this, press 5 for that. So when they're going through all that during their calls and through their day-to-day, when you're looking for your next opportunity, you just got to pick up the phone and call. There's people in HR. There's managers out there. So, yeah, I'm the worst resume writer because I don't charge unless you're begging me. And even then, it's like, hey, here's all the tools. So I learned how to do resumes. Therefore, I can show others how they can be successful in their careers. Or ultimately realize that they just need to start their own business because they got more potential than the company they're trying to work for.
All right. So have you actually encouraged people to do that? And have they done so?
1,000%. I had an opportunity being a career services advisor for Kaplan. They're no longer around, unfortunately, because it was a great school. And I was talking to HVAC and electrical technician students. At the time, now they got crazy requirements. I don't know why. But at the time, Pennsylvania said that you don't need any type of insurance or licensure that says you can start an HVAC or electrical technician business. Because I was talking to individuals who maybe were formerly incarcerated or those that just didn't have any type of work experience at all, I told them, I'm like, why don't you just knock on the next 5 doors next to you and ask them if you could do some preventative maintenance for them. By the time you're done the 5 houses, you got 5 contracts, and now you got 5 references that you could use for your next project. So they were like, I didn't think about that. I got one guy right now. Now it was all on him. I want to say I was 10%, maybe 5. I'll say 5 to be safe. I was 5% of him starting off because I remember to this day, Frank McGinley Services. He's based out in Delaware County. So Google McGinley's HVAC services.
That's right. Hook people up. You go ahead. That's all.
So when he started, it was just him. I just recently seen a post he did. He's like, hey, we're looking for our 5th HVAC technician. I'm like, man, I said, I'm 5%. I met him. I talked to him. We had a conversation about it. He's the one that he is the one that ran with it. But everybody's got the potential, especially when there's these kids out there. I hope y'all looking at the camera, y'all, because I'm about to tell y'all something. There are children out here playing video games, making millions, okay? Recording themselves. The parents got the camera in the corner and making way more money than you and I could ever expect. So if you want to be 40 in a corner playing with some G.I. Joe's action figures, go ahead and do that. But please know you're limiting your potential if you're trying to get that business off the ground. Now, I'm not saying go ahead and quit your job in doing so, but if it's got to take you 10 years to build that dream, take 10. But make sure that benchmark is at 7.
Wow. I love my job. I don't know what else to say at this moment. I just appreciate you so much more. Now that I know more about you, and I know the other things that we can talk about, that we can work together on. There's so many lessons that are wrapped up in this conversation that I will dissect over the next several hours and several days. I got one more question for you.
Yes.
But before I ask you that question, I need to know, will you come back on the show later on and we can talk about something else?
Anytime. I'll say this. I want to say like the week after August 19th, or probably after September. That way I got a couple of weeks in law school under my belt, because I definitely want to share that insight as far as what that first couple of weeks looks like. And I'm an evening student, y'all. So got the family. I mentioned the missus. I mentioned the son that's going into high school. And then on top of that, working full time. Now, granted, I do work from home, so I got that liberty and freedom. But I definitely want to be able to come back on and share that experience. So yeah, I'd be more than honored to do so.
Yes. And I think folks listening will want to hear. They'd want to follow you, right? Follow Daniel Umstead. I certainly will be interested. And again, supportive of what you're trying to accomplish, being better at what it is you've asked yourself to do, or what others have asked you to do. So last question, Dan. What is it that I didn't ask you that you'd like to tell us? Or another way to look at it is, what question would you ask and answer of yourself?
Yeah. We actually didn't touch on the king part. And Lonnie, I'm sorry, you're not the only one that I call king.
That's good.
But the reason why I started doing that, because I hear too much of the N-word left and right, whether I'm hearing it in songs, whether I'm hearing it on the street. Now, don't get me wrong. If I'm in my mode and environment, I'm by myself, I got some trap music playing in the background, absolutely, I might bust out the N-word 1 or 2 times. But if I'm addressing somebody that I know that's got something going on and we're out in public, or even more so, it might be a text message sent. I'll say this: the only time that I am using the N-word, and I'm pretty sure a majority of the population might do, no matter what your creed, ethnicity, or background is, when that song comes on. But for others, for the ones that are out here in the world, I call them kings and queens because we are royalty. We come for those that may be Christian, may not be Christian, may be going through some things, having that relationship with God. You are part of the royal family. So whether you realize it or not, you come from royalty. That's one. The second part is that if you are breathing, if you have ownership of at least one thing, I don't care how big your castle is. I don't care how big your territory and your kingdom that you spread it out to. But what I do know for certain is if you got clothes on your back, if you are able to wake up in the morning, you have royalty. You are royalty. The only thing you need to do is be speaking on how further you want that royalty to spread and how far you want your territory to spread. We are now living in the digital age. Our podcast is not only being represented in the local Philadelphia and Baltimore area, but it's also being spread around the world. So our voices, our life, who we are is royal. So stop thinking you need to be up in a big castle or come down from the Queen Elizabeth. Listen, they got kids. We got kids. They gotta eat just like we gotta eat. So there's no difference between you, me. Now they might have better opportunities than us, as it stands out in the world. But once we start addressing each other as royalty, guess what more of we become? We become royalty. We become that royal blood. We become where the Gregorys, the Umsteads of the world are standing out as that pinnacle of society. So yes, if you see me on the street, you say king, I'm going to say, what's up, king, right back to you. If I see another queen, as long as the lady says okay, I'm going to say hi, queen, back to you. So
I shared with you earlier, Daniel, that I've had a bad week. It was not a good week.
You had a great week, sir. You had a great week.
You
see how we got to switch it now,
but hold on. Check this out. I acknowledge that don't even matter.
Because in 5 years, it ain't.
It ain't going to matter. And right now, in this moment, as I'm taking this breath, I am joyful. I'm happy. I'm satisfied that I spent this last hour with you. And friends, I'm hoping you are satisfied and you are joyful that you also got a chance to spend this last hour with my man Daniel Umstead. King, thank you.
Absolutely.
For joining me on this call, for joining us on this call, for sharing. We appreciate you. So, there it is. I don't know about y'all, but I'm feeling better. All right. So how do we reach out to you again, Daniel? How do I find you? How do they find you?
Yeah, the best way is, I don't know if y'all can see the name right here. Am I doing it right? Boop, boop, boop. Daniel Umstead. And then there's going to be a .com after that. You go to that website, or feel free. I'll say my radio show, Brandon, is doing way better than me. You can also just search RNG radio show. That'll lead to me as well. And if you're looking to be a guest on the show, I only require 2 things. You got a business, product, or service, and you got a story. I'm hoping that you got a story about how you started your business, product, or service. We can talk about it on the show. It's a free marketing tool for you to come on the show, talk about your business. So that way, when somebody says, I need X, I can be like, oh, hey, I had somebody on my podcast that does exactly that.
Outstanding. All right. So there you have it. King, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a better tomorrow. Same for all of you out there. Learning matters. Thank you, King.
Thank you.
That concludes this episode of I Learn, Therefore I Can, an iRise Consulting Performance podcast. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling better about being better at what I was asked to do. Thanks for joining. Thanks for listening. And thanks for learning. Because learning matters and performance counts. Be well.